Okay, we're going to take a look at antebellum reform movements, pretty much everything that goes with Chapter 15, how they got started, why they're important, some of their interesting characteristics. Um, let's take a look at this. So these reform movements, there's a lot of stuff, a lot of things trying to get reformed, okay, in the years before the Civil War. And it all kind of stems from the Great Awakening, the Second Great Awakening. Okay, so we're going to take a look at all of these things here: education reform and the abolitionist movement, temperance movement. But we got to kind of get the background. So in the early mid 1800s, okay, you have this mass movement, kind of like the first one, the Second Great Awakening. Okay, so very similar to the first one. You have people challenging the old ways and the branch of Christianity splintering off again. Okay, you're going to get a lot more branches. Now, when you think about politically what's going on at this time, this is Jacksonian democracy. It's the rise of the common man. People are feeling more, having like more power, more say in politics and in religion. And a lot of these traditional religions are very top down, okay? You have the hierarchy of the church and the bishops and the priests and the, all the way down to the laity. And what's going to happen with this Jacksonian democracy kind of flips that upside down, and you get these new, very democratic Christian religions, okay? And what comes to this is this Protestant philosophy that gets known as the social gospel, okay? That it is your duty as a Christian to fix the problems of society. And we're going to see this get through the progressive movement. I mean, this is going to be a very important theme that's going to happen and really carry through for the next 80 years of what we're looking at, okay? But again, it's this idea that it is your responsibility as a Christian to take care of those less fortunate and to fix the problems in society. All right. Now, with these reform movements, okay, and these new religions, and the Baptists and the Methodists are really going to come out as being the two most predominant gainers of this Second Great Awakening. But you get a lot of interesting religious groups, okay? Now, what happens, one group in particular is called the Shakers, kind of an offshoot of the Quakers, okay? You get so filled with the Holy Spirit that you could see fall down and shake, okay, convulse. And what they do is they start to create these kind of communities of Shaker-only communities. Now, some of their beliefs are kind of interesting, okay? They get rid of families, total equality. Now, again, this kind of takes those Quaker ideas and expands on them, and they practice complete celibacy. So, you can only imagine trying to get recruits for this new religious group, okay? And they can't reproduce, so they eventually die down for lack of membership, okay. Again, men and women completely segregated. You can see the dance here, okay? And they don't believe in procreation. The only way you can get more members is through conversion or adopting people, okay? Very simple. Now, again, this kind of looks like a... Okay.
If you're interested, please come down to the school store. Again, we have...
This kind of looks like a middle school dance. You have the men on one side, and I'm not sure if this is a midget or an Oompa Loompa or a dwarf hobbit creature, maybe. I don't know. But again, men, women, again, it's like middle school. It almost looks like the beginning of the Thriller dance. But yeah, you can imagine things get pretty wild, okay? Another new religion, which, if you paid attention in the 2012 election, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, a man by the name of Joseph Smith, all right, had these visions from God, okay, that the the ancient tribes of Israel migrated to present-day United States 2,000 years before Columbus, and this is the true continuation of the pure Christian religion, and Jesus came to the United States after his resurrection and founded this religion, and Joseph Smith got these visions from Moroni, one of these prophets, and put them into what becomes known as the Book of Mormon, all right? And you get the Mormon religion. And because of his very different ideas, gets kind of pushed around. I mean, he's in New York, and then he gets pushed into Illinois, and then he gets killed. And a guy by the name of Brigham Young takes over the reins of the Mormons and moves them to Utah. All right, and Brigham Young is kind of seen as this Mormon Moses, as Moses freed the Israelites from Egypt back to Israel. Brigham Young sets up this migration from Illinois, him and his followers, to Utah. Now, they're very different, non-traditional beliefs. I mean, they don't believe in the divinity of Jesus, and some other interesting policies, polygamy being one of them, as far as having numerous wives. And they kind of take sanctuary in Utah. And a lot of this is looking at these groups that are going to kind of self-insulate from the outside. All right, and Utah to this day, I mean, it is the Mormon capital of the world. And going back to 150, 160 years ago, with Brigham Young and this new movement. Okay. Another group, a religious community, the Oneida community in New York. They're kind of interesting. They practice kind of open love. Okay, they reject this exclusive love. All men are married to all women. Very open, non-traditional sexual relationships. They also practice eugenics. They have some interesting methods of birth control, early forms of birth control, and eugenics as far as the strong mate with the strong to get this new breed of superhumans, I guess. This idea of mutual criticism, which kind of be interesting if you want to become a full-fledged member and kind of put yourself on blast. You come down, and then everyone gets to reprimand you for all your wrongdoings. It doesn't sound the most exciting. And Oneida, through some various financial issues, they go under. But what they do, part of how they made their money was crafts and artisanship and silverware. And today, the Oneida Silverware Company, which I have Oneida silverware, you might have Oneida silverware. It's very good quality. Comes back from this Oneida community in the mid-1800s. Okay. Another one, this New Harmony, kind of a communist type commune. It's all about forming this utopia, okay, this perfect, society, okay. Brook Farm, another one in Massachusetts, all about self-sufficiency, rejecting organized religion. It's with this Transcendentalist movement, which we'll look at here in a second. But again, it's all about living outside of society and living in these closed utopian communities, whether it's the state of Utah or the Oneida community or the Shakers or Brook Farm. It's all about forming these these exclusive clubs. Okay. And you can see where some of these, most of them in New England, okay? A lot of this reform coming out of New England. So, I mean, you could see the Shakers and the Harmonists and the Separatists and all of these groups in the mid 1800s. All right. Now, out of this, another idea out of this Second Great Awakening is the temperance movement that begins. Okay, I mean, Americans are drinking on average about 5 gallons of hard liquor per person each year. All right, today it's about 2. So we're drinking 2.5 times the amount of alcohol 150 years ago than we are now. And I think we have a pretty relaxed culture in terms of drinking right now. So you get the temperance movement that'll later evolve into the prohibition movement and get the 18th Amendment passed and prohibition. But this is starting, all right, before the Civil War. 1826 is the American Temperance Society, this group that is trying to eliminate consumption of all alcoholic beverages. Okay, you can see what I was mentioning here. I think it's closer to 5 gallons. Gallons. Okay, I mean, you think about a gallon of liquor, and that's not of beer. I mean, that's a hard liquor. That's pretty crazy. All right. Now, this group or these societies, again, they more look at it on an individual basis. They get people to sign these pledges to not drink, okay? And they're pretty successful. I mean, from a ground level, grassroots level. And later you'll get the women's Christian temperance movement. Again, very much has a lot to do with this Christian reform movements, the Second Great Awakening. Also tie that in with nativism, the Germans and the Irish and their heavy influence of drinking on their culture. It's all linked. Okay, nothing is coincidental. All right. This one's just kind of interesting. A political cartoon, the drunkard's progress. All right. So this is just a natural progression. So of course you have a glass of wine with a friend, and then you'll have a glass to make sure you don't get a cold. All right, and then you had a glass too much. All right, and then you're drunk and you're having fights, and then you're just a confirmed, drunk alcoholic. Okay, then you have poverty and disease. Then none of your friends are going to like you. Then you go to crime and desperation, and then suicide. Okay, death by suicide, and you see the wife and the child weeping with their burning house in the prison. And this is kind of how they sell it. It starts with one glass and it ends with you're going to kill yourself. It makes sense, right? I mean, if you have one glass of wine, of course you're going to commit suicide. All right, it's only 8 short steps. But they're pretty successful at getting people to sign these, and especially when you have women at the forefront. Women can be very persuasive. All right, trust me. All right, so again, you can see 70,000 members signing these pledges. Pretty successful. Okay, education reform, free and public education like we have now is not very common in the 1820s. Before the 1820s, you only went to school if you were rich. You could afford tutors, afford private school. And a guy by the name of Horace Mann is going to lead this movement for compulsory education. Now, compulsory is just mandatory. Okay, we have compulsory education in the United States. You have to go whether you like it or not. Okay, and this idea that education can be the great equalizer among society, the social gospel, that to rise up the lower classes and equal out the playing field through education. All right, I mean, same story. I've said it 1,000 times to my students over the years. Okay, and again, training teachers, training people in these professions. All right, so thank you, Horace Mann. I always think it's like horseman, but Horace Mann. All right, sorry. Okay, we're going to go, these pamphlets of teaching etiquette and kind of teaching these traditional values and McGuffey's readers, circulating. You can see 80% of all students had these things. Okay. Other reform movements, Dorothea Dix. You look at the insane asylums, very unsanitary, nasty. People are underfed, sleeping on nasty, cold floors, beaten, starved. And Dorothea Dix is really going to try to reform the mental institutions and hospitals and prison reform. Okay, so that's Dorothea Dix again, social gospel, helping out the lowest in society. Okay, the women's rights movement starting at this time, 1848, Seneca Falls Convention, trying to get a national, awareness for women's rights. Okay, women are really at the forefront of the anti-slavery and the temperance movement, and you see Dorothea Dix with these humanitarian causes. More women are being allowed to vote in some places, depending on the state. Okay, but still they got a long ways to go. I mean, most states, women are kind of seen as the men's property. And a lot of this is going to start to change. Women get more rights to vote. Women are going to be able to go to college. Okay, and the start for women's rights is really starting in the 1830s and 40s. Okay, you see a protest on the dresses. Okay, yeah. Those are some snazzy outfits there. Okay. Anti-slavery, Lucretia Mott, one of the main anti-slavery leaders. Okay, and again, they can't. They're still not allowed to fully participate in even the most liberal of causes with these anti-slavery movements. Okay, which is going to help them really get more support for their own causes. All right. Seneca Falls Convention, all right. Lucretia Mott and Elizabeth Cady Stanton planned this women's rights convention, and I always remember it's the year that Wisconsin becomes a state. This kind of sparks the women's movement in the United States. They're trying to make it a civil rights issue, okay, just like blacks will. You think about the issues with gay marriage in the United States. When you make it a civil rights issue, people have a hard time to go against it. Okay, they passed something. These declarations, kind of like a declaration of almost of independence. Okay, to women's independence and women's rights. Okay, so this is usually seen as the start of this women's movement that'll really is still going on today. I mean, women still aren't paid the same rate as men in the United States. Okay. The Declaration of Sentiments, okay, based on the Declaration of Independence, and you can see we hold these truths to be self-evident. Men and women are created equal. Okay, and this is kind of their rally cry by Elizabeth Cady Stanton. Just takes a lot of Thomas Jefferson's words and applies them to women. Okay. Susan B. Anthony, again, getting national recognition. Okay. Let's higher education for women. Okay, Oberlin College, first co-ed school. You're getting female-only schools, and which again today, 60% of college students are women. So there's really been a complete paradigm shift over the years. Okay. All right, let's go through here. Okay, and the last thing, Transcendentalists. Okay, these Transcendentalists are these New Age, non-religious, all about intuition and naturalism and the environment to reason your way through life. Okay, so almost this divine characteristics of nature that this, not God, but this divinity is within nature. Very individualistic, self-reliance. You don't need anybody else's help. Take care of yourself. Very morally enthusiastic. Now, this isn't like Christian morality. It's more of you do the right thing because it's the right thing in terms of natural law. Very anti-slavery. All right, the abolitionist movement gets a lot of its members, kind of coming out of this Transcendentalists. Very pro women's rights, very modern liberal, as you could kind of a way to think about these Transcendentalists. Okay, Anti-aristocracy, again, age of Jacksonian democracy, common man, and self-reliance and self-confidence, which I talked about. Okay, so that ends my notes on reform movements. If there's things that I went too fast, just hit me up in class and we can discuss them at further length. All right.